Do we have too many reshuffles? Wouldn't stability be better?
In an ideal world, but politics isn't about ideal worlds. Prime Ministers have to reflect public opinion, party opinion, the interests of his party in the election proceeds that are underway, and he has to deliver results, or she has to deliver results. And you've got a failing minister, or you have a crisis, a scandal or something, and it often isn't possible to contain the reshuffle to one person coming in and as one goes out. You may have all sorts of other things you want to get done. So in the real world, best avoided, but not easy to avoid.
What would be your advice to someone taking over as Secretary of State to establish their effectiveness? What's one thing, when they move into a department, to demonstrate and to carry through so that they'll be thought of as effective at the end of their period?
I would, first of all, say, this is my agenda. And then I would give a time to it, and I would then monitor the procedures that were there to deliver that agenda. And
what about relationship with civil servants? I mean, how closely would you involve those? You've always been a sceptic about special political advisors. So how do you involve your civil servants?
I regard the civil servants that I know and have worked with the highest regard for their ability, and actually I got, I think, very warm personal relationships with many of them. I have no idea what their politics were, but if you're, I think, you're an effective minister, you don't go around sort of saying, this is what my party wants, and this is the party view. You say, this is the policy, and you listen to what they say, and if you think they're right, you go back to your colleagues and say, look, I think we may have got this slightly wrong, but if you think that you're right, then you say, I've listened to your arguments, I've come to a conclusion, now this is what the programme is going to be, and this is the timescale.
Final one. What role does the so-called GOATs for outsiders as ministers? You, for example, in your period had Lord Belwyn, a great local government man working with you in the early days of the environment. I mean, what role is there for the outsider as a minister?
Irwin Belwyn was immensely valuable because he'd come from running Leeds. He actually knew how to run some big organisation. And I was faced with the task of trying to reduce the scale of the Department of the Environment. Irwin told me how to do it. He said there was only one way to do it, because I've done it, he said. And you take control of recruitment. And every time someone leaves, you make them explain why they need to replace that person. And 13,000 jobs down later, that policy worked. So
you want more people like that, you have one per department or something like that?
Well, you don't need to have them as ministers, although there's, of course, a perfectly reasonable job to be done. You can have them as special advisors. I mean, Irwin was there because he'd run Leeds, so he had run a big authority. That was his unique contribution. But I had many other special advisors who came in because they had skills and expertise, but none of them came in as ministers.